Let me start the recording. Okay, it can be shared to you all. Okay. So I was telling you that we are seeing the subject compilers, and we are starting with programming languages, where as one of you said that programming languages will be used to give instruction to computer. Now if I am not wrong, you will agree that the computers are something which understands only zeros and ones. No confusion,
Yes,
I
sir.
think. Now these programming languages, some of the programming languages you would have seen, have you ever written your code in zeros and ones? Answers. Please tell me, have you ever written your codes in zeros and ones?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No,
Definitely
sir.
not. You have always written your code in some English-like language, okay? And somehow something happens in background. Maybe you perform some operation on these files, and then it turns out to be an object file or some other kind of file, which can be understood by the computer. So whatever language you use, I want to say one language which is I should say machine level language. Okay, one language is machine level language. This machine level language is actually zeros and ones. The string, I should say, a string or sequence of zeros and ones. Okay. So the computer only understands this machine level language, zeros and ones. So what happened in early 40s, when a simple computer started, electronic computer I want to say, started building, okay, developing. In that phase, what happened, we tried to give instructions to the computer, and these instructions were generally in the sequence of zeros and ones. So although instructions were also simple, like addition, multiplication, or these kind of things, but all of these things before giving to the computer, we have to manually write it into zeros and ones and then give to computer. Now, do you believe there may be some problem in writing such instructions in zeros and ones? Do you believe there will be some problem in writing in zeros and ones? Writing your program, whole program, right? Several instructions in zeros and ones. Will there be some problem? You have to answer.
Yes, sir.
What problem you can face?
Sir, it would be very difficult for us to write whole program in a binary language.
What kind of difficulty?
Sir, everyone cannot understand it binary language easily.
Understanding. Okay. One of the problem you are saying is understanding. Any other problem? One problem is definitely understanding, and whenever you need to change something in this code, it is very difficult to find out the position where you have to change, right? So writing such code was difficult. Later on, what happened, we came for something we call it assembly level language. Okay, so what happens in assembly language? In assembly language,
So it converts the high level language to machine language.
okay, we are for now we are talking about the assembly language, high level language to machine level language. If there is some kind of software which will convert your high level language to machine level language, you will call them compilers. Okay, for now,
Okay, sir.
for now we are just thinking about the languages. We will come on high level language, which will come after assembly language. Okay, so initially we started writing with zeros and ones. Later on we thought for addition, right? For addition we were writing some code like 0 1 1 0 1 kind of. Maybe if at all it is 5-bit, or if it is only 3-bit, then other thing. If 5-bit, we are writing some code like this for addition. So let us fix some mnemonic in English, add, for this thing. Whenever you will write add, you will have an assembler. Okay, assembler will be another piece of code, I want to say a software, which will convert your this particular mnemonic into the corresponding machine code. Okay, we will see about the assembler again in a while, but one thing I was telling you about assembly language, that now it is better than writing zeros and ones. Now you don't need to write zeros and ones. Now you can write just the mnemonic for a particular sequence of zeros and ones. So this became a little easy, but still there the difficulty remained. Okay, then comes what it comes, I want to say a high level language. High level language is more user friendly, English like language. For example, Fortran, C, C++, Java and others. Okay, these all languages will be considered as high level language. What happens with these languages? You write it in a English looking like statements, and you will use some software to convert it to machine language, machine level language I should say. Okay, machine level language is zeros and ones. In between you may need to convert it to assembly language also. Okay, or maybe certain compilers will be which will directly convert your high level language to machine level language. It may be possible. Okay, so you will call this software as compiler. So basically now when we are dealing with your high level languages, so whenever we have a high level language, we will have a compiler to convert your language to another language. Let me repeat, compiler, your compiler will take source code. Source code means code in a particular language and convert it, output will be, output is another language. Let me call it as target code. Okay, so a compiler will take an input as a source code and convert it to another language. Maybe you can call it target code. Okay, so basically the compiler's job is to convert your program from one language to another language. The working of your program will remain same. Okay, whatever your source code was doing, your target code will also do the same equivalent work. Okay, the program is equivalent, only the language is changing. It is, I should say, source language, and this is a target language. Okay, so here what happens, source code or source program is converted to a target code or target program. So this target program, whatever it is, if at all it is an assembly language, then you will need assembler. If at all it is directly a machine language code, then what can happen? You will use this target code. You will use this target code where you will give some input, means whatever input is decided for the program, and you will get the output. Right? You can run your target code on machine. So this is something about basics of compiler. Let me tell you about interpreter before moving forward. Right? So what an interpreter does, interpreter is
So
just,
it translates one line of statement, sir.
okay, it translates your program line by line, right? Okay, so basically what happens, interpreter is little different from compiler, where
Yes.
it definitely takes line by line, but it also takes the input program, right? Let me tell you, it is taking source program, as well as the input. Okay, and it is not producing on any another language program. It is directly producing your output. So this is interpreter. Basically what happened earlier, in compiler you are converting one source program to a target program. Okay, and then this target program can definitely be executed, no problem. But here what happens, an interpreter does, it takes your source program, it takes the input as well, and interprets. Interprets means it executes your source program line by line. It takes a first line of your program, examines it. Examines means find out whether the syntax is correct, semantically it is correct or not, and then executes it with the given input and produces the output. So this is the story of interpreter and difference from the compiler. Now till now, if you have some questions, please ask. Do you have questions? Okay, then let me ask questions. Let me start with Ram Krishna. Ram Krishna, can you tell me what is the purpose of compilers? for what purpose compiler can be used? Ram Krishna. Okay. Abhishek Upadhyay.
Yes, sir.
So what is the purpose of using compilers?
Sir, a compiler can be used to convert a user-friendly language to the machine language.
Is it necessary that the converted language should be machine language only? Can it convert to any other language also?
So maybe it can convert to any other language, but that language should be machine friendly.
Okay, that is not that big thing. I mean, that is not required that it should be a machine language. Compiler can be used to convert one language program to another language program. Okay. So whenever you are designing a software which is converting one language program to another language program, it will be called as compiler. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So now let me ask Pradeep about interpreter. How is this interpreter different from compiler? Pradeep.
Yes, sir.
So Pradeep, I was asking, how is this interpreter different from compiler?
Yes. Sir, interpret.
Pradeep, you will have to repeat. I believe Pradeep would be saying something correct, but some sound problem is there. Let me ask Abhishek Raj.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Pradeep.
Sir, I am audible, sir.
Yes, now you are audible.
Sir, interpreters sir convert line by line. I mean high level language into low level language.
Okay.
But sir, compiler for whole language at once time. I mean.
Okay, let me repeat. Interpreter, here as we are studying, according to the book, what interpreter does, it will execute your source program line by line. Okay, it will take your source program and the required input and produce the output directly. Okay, so interpreter is not converting your source program to another, I should say, another language program. However, compiler is something which will convert your source program to a target program or another language program. Okay, so let me ask this question to Abhishek Raj. Abhishek Raj, how is this interpreter different from compiler?
Basically, sir, interpreter just translate the one statement at a time into a machine code, but compiler translate the entire program from source code to the target code. But compiler does not basically interpreter does not generate the intermediary code. It directly give the output, but compiler convert the source code into the target code, and target code is the intermediary code.
Okay. Now target code is if you are saying intermediary code, it will be a
It's a
little
executable code.
yeah, it can be executable code. Yeah, it is okay. target code is for compilers. It is not necessary always that it will be an executable code. Most of the times it is an executable code, definitely. Okay, but for certain cases, if you are developing a compiler to convert one source code to definitely a different language code, then also it is a compiler. It doesn't matter whether the target code is machine executable, machine language code or not. Now, let me ask Manish Kumar that if this target code,
Yes, sir.
if this target code is a machine language program,
Yes, sir.
then what do you think? This what happens here in this diagram? As I can see, target code is there. Given the input, it produces the output. Can you understand this thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You can also understand that there is an interpreter which takes the input, takes the program, and produces the output. Yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, there are two scenarios. One, where you have this target code, which is a machine language code which can be executed, and you have here a source program with interpreter. What do you think? Which will be faster, this one or the second one?
Sir, I think interpreter is fast because, sir, it will execute one statement at a time, but, sir, the target code execute full program at a time.
So, which will be faster, you are saying?
Sir, interpreter.
Okay. Let me ask the same question to next, Chavi Rana. Chavi Rana. Chavi Rana. Okay, let me go for Sabir Khan.
Yes, sir.
So Sabir, tell me, there are two situations. The target code is there, which is machine executable, and there is an interpreter which will execute the source program with input, and there is target code which will execute the input and produce output. Which will be faster, the first one or second one?
You're asking me that there is a source code. If we put it through a compiler and an interpreter, and the target code is going to be the machine level code, right? So you're asking me
Let me repeat my question then. My question is, for the source code, I have already used compiler to generate a target code. This target code is a machine executable code.
Okay.
Now, the situation is, we will use this target code to take the input and produce output. And the second situation is, we have an interpreter, we will use the source program with input and produce output. Now, in these first situation and second situation, which is faster?
Sir, like, how can we use a target code to take the input and produce the output? I mean, it should be compiler, right?
Okay, let me repeat. Compiler is something which will take your source code, one language program, I should say, one language program, and convert it to another language program. Okay, and in this another language program is it may be an executable code, may not be executable code. I am telling you that it is executable code. For example, you would have done programming in C language.
Yes.
What happens in C language? You write your code and use a compiler. This compiler converts your C code in a object file. Is it true?
Yes, yes.
And then you execute your object file with the input.
Yes.
है ना? So, let us have two situations. One, you have your object file, you want to execute your object file with the input, or you want to use another interpreter with the source program and input to produce output. Which will be faster?
The object file, the
Okay.
target code.
So for now, I have taken two opinions from Manish and you. Manish was saying interpreter can be faster. You are saying in this first case, executing a target code may be faster. Let me take a third opinion also. On let us talk to Satyavrat. Satyavrat.
Yes, sir.
So you have already heard about the question. Is the question clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what do you think? Which option will be better? Which is faster?
Yes, sir, I think the first one.
First
The
one
target
will be faster.
Yeah.
So more votes are coming for the first one. Can I ask Aniket?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Here I am assuming that there is no error in case in both the cases.
Yeah, very good. Aniket,
Yes, sir.
what do you think?
Yes, sir. For me also it's like target code because it like converts in a one go. The whole program is converted in a one go. But in interpreter it takes time, like line by line executing. It takes more time, sir.
Okay, Aniket. So now we are seeing that more votes are coming for this thing. So let me clear here that definitely interpreter's job will be to take one statement, find whether the statement is correct or not, both syntactically and semantically. Okay, and after finding that yes, it is correct, then it will convert it to equivalent binary and then take input and execute line by line. Okay. However, in this case, what is happening, I am telling you, we have used the compiler already. So the source code has already been checked. Definitely the whole program, but line by line, all the whole program, right? So the whole program has been checked syntactically and semantically, and optimized code, whatever machine code is already generated. So whatever time required by the interpreter for checking the code and generating the machine code is not taken here in this first case, right? In the first case, we have the executable code already. So because of these reason, the first case where using the object file is faster than using the interpreter for executing your source program. Now, if I talk about diagnostic point of view, that you want to diagnose your code where the error is coming. For this point of view, what do you think? Which can be better, a compiler or an interpreter? Let me talk to Dipesh Gupta. Dipesh, can you tell me, you want to diagnose your code, what is the error and where the error is, and which can be better, a compiler or an interpreter?
So if we want to debug or diagnose our code, so in this case interpreter will be better because it will execute a statement at a time, so we will be able to easily detect at which statement we are getting errors.
Okay. So actually, Dipesh, the answer is very correct. That definitely, if you want to diagnose your code, in that case, interpreter can be preferable than the compilers. Okay. So this is the story of interpreter and compilers. You would have heard about Java. Okay. In Java, what do you have, a compiler or an interpreter?
So it's compiler.
Anybody else, if you want to answer? So here you have a source program. this source program is given to your some part, I should say compiler, or let me call it translator. And this translator will definitely produce some bytecode, or I should say intermediate program. Have you heard about bytecode? Then this intermediate program is given to your Java virtual machine, I should say. Have you heard?
Yes, sir.
You can call it as interpreter.
Yes, sir. JVM.
It will take your input as well, and then it will produce output. So this whole thing, let me make it like this. This whole thing you can call this whole thing as a hybrid, HY I think, right? You can call it as a hybrid compiler. There you are also using a compiler to convert your source program to intermediate program. You would have heard about bytecodes, right? And then you will execute your bytecode on any machine to make it platform independent. You do these things, right? So you will execute your this thing intermediate program with input on virtual machine. I should say this is an interpreter. So you have a compiler as well as an interpreter. This can be considered as hybrid compiler. So any confusion till now? No confusion? So then let me show you something. When you write your source program, okay, okay, when you write your source program, you need to pre-process it. Okay, I am telling you, I should say how your program is processed. Okay, in between you will see compiler is also used, but before using the compiler, you need to pre-process it. Okay. Pre-process it. What this preprocessor will do? Preprocessor will definitely modify something in source code. Okay, it will produce a modified source code. Then this modified source code will be fed, I should say, to the compilers. Now, what kind of modification is done here by the preprocessor? Have you heard about preprocessors in your C language and those things? Let me ask to Vivek Kumar.
No, sir.
So you have heard about, sorry, you have not, but let me remind you. Have you heard about preprocessor directives? In your C
No, sir.
program, what happens, the first line you write is, let me write it here.
Header file, sir. Has
Okay, you want to include some header file, right?
Yes, sir.
Has include something, right?
Yes,
Hana?
sir.
You also write
Yes,
something
sir.
like has define something. Maybe you want to define some
Yes, sir.
constant or macro, right?
Yes, sir.
So these are something which you can call it as preprocessed directives. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now, so in your source program, definitely you have included such files. Now, what the preprocessor will do, it will convert your source program to modified source program, where such external files, the content whatever needed will be added. Such macros, wherever it has to expanded or kept, it is done. Such constant variables which have been used, it will be replaced. This pre-processing is done here. So for processing your source program, for total processing, I am saying, for total processing your source program, there is a separate module, preprocessor, a separate code which will do these pre-processing kind of things and generate a modified source code. So in this modified source code, you have just sequence of instructions. Okay, there is no external linking, or means definitely whatever link will be needed you will have to do. You have no external files kind of thing. All these things, no macros, or you have just the line of codes. These modified source code are fed to compilers. Now these compilers, what they do, let me say they are generating some assembly program. Okay, so they are generating target ASM program, or let me say assembly. Okay, now this target assembly program is fed to for an assembly language program. You usually have a assembler. Okay, what the assembler does, it interprets your assembly language program, or it will convert this assembly language program to relocatable code. Okay, so this code, this machine code will be relocatable. It means that usually you might have different files in your program. So these you may have to develop multiple such object files. You can call it relocatable object files, and then different other library files will be there. These all will be linked and loaded. Okay, so there will be a linker and loader. Okay, so what it does, it will see all the relocatable machine codes. It will also see other library files. Okay, and maybe other relocatable codes, whatever for other from other files, and then it will produce your target machine code. Okay, so this is the story of processing your language. What happened? You started with your source program, then you pre-processed it and you produced a modified source code. This modified source code is given to your compiler, which will produce another language, maybe target assembly program, given to assembler, produces a relocatable machine code, and then there is a linker loader which will use this relocatable machine code, other relocatable machine codes, library files, and link them together and load and also resolve the memory allocation as needed, and then produces the target machine code. So this is the story of your execution of your source program totally. We have to focus on compilers. So in next class we will see the structure of this part, only the compilers. Okay, so this compiler will be important for us. We will see what happens in compiler. Are there some certain stages? What happens inside the compiler? First the syntax is checked, or is there something done before checking the syntax, and what are the things done after checking the syntax, and how this source code is converted into another target code. Okay, so these are something that we are going to see in next class. So for now, if you have some confusion or some questions to ask. Tell me. So is there something you want to ask? No. So then we will have attendance according to the roll number. So today it is 26th of July. Roll number 1, are you present?
Present, sir.
2,
Present, sir.
3, 4,
Present, sir.
5,
Present, sir.
6,
Present, sir.
7,
Present, sir.
8,
Present, sir.
Rishabh Kumar.
Yes, sir. Present, sir.
Roll number 1 was?
Sir, Deepesh 1.
Okay. 9, 10,
Present, sir.
11,
Present, sir.
12,
Yes, sir.
13, Shavirana, okay, 14, 15, 16, 7.
Present, sir.
So you are 16.
Yes, sir.
Okay. 17,
Yes, sir.
18, 19, 20, 21.
Present, sir.
Okay. 22,
Present, sir.
23,
Present, sir.
24, 25,
23 is the last roll number.
25 is
23 is the last roll number.
23 is the last roll number.
Yes, sir.
So you are 19 students participating here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 students have responded to the attendance. Okay. 3 of you are not responding, just logged in only.
So there are 17 participants here.
Oh, okay, 17 participants only. 2 is, okay, I am only the 2, right?
Yes.
So
So
among
did you mark my attendance? 108, Rishabh Kumar.
8, yeah, present.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So which are absent, I am telling you, 3, 9, 14, 15, 18, 19, 20. Okay then. So for now, for today, it is over the class. And
Sir, Chavi has actually texted in the message box. If
yeah, Chabi was roll number 13, I believe.
Yes, sir.
So it is present. So now for compiler, we will have next class on Wednesday. Tomorrow, Tuesday, at 2 o'clock, you have lab, right? In lab, tomorrow you will not have lab. From next week onwards, we will have lab. Now on Wednesday, you will have lecture at the same time, 11 o'clock for compilers. In second half, I believe from 4 o'clock, you have a class for distributed systems. So at 4 o'clock, we will meet again for distributed system. For now, whatever we have seen today, do you have any confusion, anything you want to ask? Or anything related to subject you want to ask? Okay then, we will meet again on Wednesday, 11 o'clock for compilers. Till then, you have to follow your book. I have also followed the same book, Aho Ullman, for you. Go through the book, you will find very easy to understand it. We are moving very slowly. Keep reading the book, that will be very helpful. Okay. Till then, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.